In episode 50, I told you all about buildings and monuments that had made their way around the town. What if I told you there are many more parts of the city that are a lot more mobile than you might think? Find out about them in this episode of Astonishing Glasgow. It's a Sunday afternoon in September, and I'm out on my bike looking for things that have moved around the city. The things I'm looking for don't have wheels, however. They look like they could never move, but everything in this episode has started out in a different location. Since I am standing on Cathcart Road, as it passes over the M74, I'm going to talk about what used to be here, but has now moved. This church was St Ninian's Wynd Church, and sadly, it's not the church that moved. The church was completely levelled to make way for the regeneration of the Gorbals, which began in the 1960s. What did survive was the small hexagonal sandstone structure that stood in front of it at the gushet. Now I've looked long and hard to try and work out what this small structure was. Was it a drinking fountain? Was it a boundary marker? I just can't find out, but what I do know is that it survived, and by the 1990s it was standing across the road from the Citizens Theatre on Gorbal Street, right at the entrance of the Citizens Rose Garden. Although it is not there now. The Gorbals has undergone yet another transformation. Although this might just about qualify as Lauriston, but we're going to call it the Gorbals. As part of the work, the tower blocks all came down. New houses were built, and the marker, drinking fountain, TARDIS, whatever it was on the move again. When I saw it had disappeared, I did worry that it had finally become landfill, but I was happy to find it reassembled at the end of Abbotsford Place. I still don't really know what it was, so if you do know what it was, let me know in the comments. Around the bottom it does look like there are boot scrapers, and I can't see anywhere that you could have got a drink from it. Could it be that these were once niches with fresh water, and that they have since been blocked up? The reliefs do look contemporary to the structure, however, with the depiction of a steel foundry, a hook for a crane, and a beehive? But the first two, with the steel foundry and the hook, well, there was lots of industry nearby with Dixon Blazes just across the road. Either way, it has, if the date on the top is to be believed, survived for almost 140 years. Let's hope it survives long into the future. Though you never know, it may someday pack its bags and move elsewhere. Just like the next subject, which is, without doubt, a fountain. You might have guessed where we're off to already, but for those who are playing along, we're heading for the Glasgow Green. Across the road from the High Court, we pass under the MacLennan Arch, a monument that has moved 4 times already. You can find out more about that in episode 17. A link is on the top right of your screen right now, but do wait till the end of this episode before you disappear. As you enter the green, you cannot miss the colourful Commonwealth Games logo from 2014. That itself has moved from George Square after the Commonwealth Games finished, but that's not why we are here. This is where the fabulous Doulton fountain stood when it was moved here to the green after being moved from its original location in Kelvingrove Park, where it was on display for the Great Exhibition of 1888. Once it was reassembled here in 1890, it was a major feature of Glasgow Green. How many generations took a cooling paddle in the fountain on a warm summer's day? Sadly though, by the end of the 20th century, the fountain was in a very bad way, as can be seen in these pictures from the Doulton Fountain Restoration page on Facebook. I hope you don't mind me borrowing some of your pictures from your page. There's a link to the Doulton Fountain Restoration page in the description below. The fountain was fenced off. There were broken parts, missing parts, vandalised parts and rusty pipework. Its future was looking very bleak. But with the help of Scottish Heritage and funding from the National Lottery, the fountain would be saved and it was on the move again. In 2005, the largest terracotta fountain in the world had undergone a full restoration at the cost of £2 million, and it was back being a fountain again right outside the People's Palace. On the top is Queen Victoria, and she is not wearing a Teletubby hat. When the fountain was first erected, her Madge was struck by lightning and had to be replaced. This proved difficult as the original moulds were smashed, but once completed, they added a lightning rod to her head to stop her being destroyed again. Below the Queen and her 4 maidens are 4 sentries that represent the regiments of Scotland, England, Ireland and the Royal Navy. On the lowest level of the fountain are depictions representing the 4 continents of the British Empire: Canada, India, South Africa and Australia. If you look closely, however, apart from Mother Africa, if you look beyond the clothing, none of the statues look particularly indigenous to these countries. The sculptors of these figures used each other, along with students and apprentices, as models. And as they were all British, the figures don't represent the people of each country. They are all white British people, apart from Mother Africa. The day I was filming here, it wasn't particularly sunny, although it has been on previous visits. It's the end of the summer, so the fountain is looking a little bit mossy, but at least we still have it. Things like this is what makes Glasgow flourish. Before I move to the next moving bit of Glasgow, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying my videos. It helps the algorithm push my videos to other viewers, and it helps you, as you will be notified when the next video goes live. To get to the next subject, I'm out of Glasgow Green and rolling along Argyle Street. On a bike, on a Sunday, not the easiest with one hand holding a camera, and unlike the Just Eat guys, I actually need to pedal my bike to make it move. So here we are at the bottom of Buchanan Street, and if you're over 30, you will probably already have remembered what was once here. I've had to mute my footage as Techno Tin Bin Man was playing Beatles hits, and that would get me a copyright strike, so I won't hang around here for too long, much like the Spirit of Kentigern statue, which was installed when Buchanan Street became a pedestrianised shopping centre in 1972. Planters full of shrubs and flowers, along with benches, were added to brighten up the now traffic-free street. And then there was this. Whatever it was supposed to be. It confused a lot of folk and it wasn't very popular, although one person who did like it and cites it as an inspiration is Andy Scott, the sculptor behind the Kelpies. By the turn of the new century, the blob was gone, and I didn't think many people noticed or cared. Even I had forgotten it existed until it turned up in a brand new location, right at the top end of town, on the new campus of the City of Glasgow College. Why are these things always at the top of a hill? Anyway, I don't know if I was happy to see it again or just happy that I hadn't imagined it from my childhood. I will admit, I remembered it being more of a bronze colour. I actually thought it was made of bronze, along with lots of the articles I have read all about this statue whilst researching this video. It turns out actually that it is made of polycarbonate composite material. Fiberglass to you and me. So it's not quite as heavy and substantial as I thought it would be. It is supposed to represent the bird that never flew from the coat of arms, but I can't quite see it myself. Although for some reason, I do suddenly have a hankering for a bag of quavers. Weird. For the last chapter of this episode, I'm going to get away from all these students. I'm off to the West End. Never any students there. I'm here at Glasgow's Botanic Gardens, and it's a bit of a 2-for-1 deal here. The most impressive glass house at the Botanics has to be the Kibble Palace. The Kibble Palace was designed by the architects James Boucher and James Cosland, and constructed in the 1860s, but not here. The components were cast at Walter Macfarlane's Saracen Foundry and then transported to the home of John Kibble at Coulport on Loch Long, around 50 miles from Glasgow. John Kibble was an interesting guy. Born in 1815, he was an inventor, engineer and amateur photographer who invented a floating bike. Then in 1858, he built the world's biggest camera. It was so big it needed a horse and cart to move it round. In 1871, he donated the structure to the Botanic Gardens and it was transported up the Clyde and erected in its current location where it still does the job it was designed for. Now remember I said it was a 2-for-1 deal at the Botanic Gardens? Well, it wasn't just the Kibble Palace that moved from its original location. The whole Botanic Gardens originated on a completely different site in the Sandyford area of Glasgow, about 1.5 miles away. This area of Glasgow would now be considered part of Finnieston by most, but if you look carefully enough, you will see traces of its original name of Sandiford. On the site here, which is now all housing, was from 1817 the 8 acres of the original Glasgow Botanic Gardens. They were run by the Royal Botanic Institution of Glasgow to supply specimens to Glasgow University. In 1842 the gardens would up sticks and move to its current location, leaving only tarmac, buildings and weeds. But if you look closely, in the correct place, there's one big clue that the Botanic Gardens were once here. On the gable end of this building on Fitzroy Lane, if you look on the wall above the bins, you will see a commemorative stone built into the wall marking the original location of the Glasgow Botanic Gardens of 1817. So there you go, some more bits of Glasgow that have travelled round the town. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to check out the others and hit that like and subscribe button. If you would like to help me make more episodes, you can leave a donation using the Super Thanks button or by treating yourself to some merch off the Spreadshirt page. All the links are below. These are the superstars who used the Super Thanks button since the last episode, and every penny is greatly appreciated. It really helps. For now, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time in Astonishing Glasgow. Right, I'm away to have that bag of quavers. Hopefully prawn cocktail. See you later. I can move any fountain. I can move any fountain.